Kansas City Chiefs at the Indianapolis Colts. As we sit right now, this has come off of what was as high as 7. So I was kind of hoping for maybe a 7 and a hook. And then at that point, I would have no choice but to play the Colts. But that's not going to be the case. 5.5. There is 1-6 out there at PointsBet right now. Adam, I'll start with you. We've seen the Chiefs start 2-0. That being said, not necessarily the most efficient offense so far. We saw a game in which they kind of sputtered really badly for the first half and were able to rally against the Chargers. So we've seen this come off the 7 all the way down to 5.5, a total of 50.5. The Colts have started obviously very, very poorly. They have been, after getting shut out last week, that means they've scored 20 total points in 2 games, 17 of which came in the fourth quarter against the Texans, where they were trying to rally to get that thing to overtime. So 17 of their 20 points in the 8 quarters they have played or came kind of in garbage time when they were in rally mode here. So what do you see in Chiefs and Colts? And do you think that this move of people backing the Colts as they come back home is a little bit of an overreaction to people's priors heading into the season?
That really is the question, Matt, isn't it? Are we going to be able to rely on what we thought about the Indianapolis Colts before the season? And for me, that actually is a weird 180 situation, because I thought very little of the Colts coming into this year. I was very clear with you guys on the fact that I had Indianapolis rated significantly lower than a lot of the market. And yet, when I look at the numbers that I have right now, if I were to trust them blindly, I probably would be taking one of those remaining 6s on the board with the Indianapolis Colts. That being said, there are 2 teams, and we're going to get into obviously the other one later, that for me, I have a very hard time relying on even what I think is a generous evaluation that I still have, and Indianapolis is one of them, because the one thing we thought we could rely upon with the Colts, that is the one thing that I know all of us rely on a lot, is the offensive line, and it hasn't been there for Indy this year. And maybe we should have seen more of it coming with the retirement of Costanzo, with Glowinski going to the Giants. Maybe we should have seen more of that. Maybe we should have thought more about whether Matt Ryan was the problem with the Falcons or whether the Falcons were the problem with Matt Ryan. Spoiler, it was both. And now we look at the Colts in this situation, and you have a Kansas City team coming in that, as you mentioned, Matt, I think that the record looks a lot better than what the results have actually given you. I think the Chargers probably outplayed them pretty well on that Thursday night football game. But of course, I just said Thursday night football game. So Kansas City also comes in with a rest advantage. I think that you can probably assign a half point or so for that as well. And I'll give you a stat. And again, these stats are generally worth about as much as the internet that they're printed on. But Kansas City's Patrick Mahomes has never lost in a dome.
There you go. There's at least there is that. I mean, listen, it makes some sense, right? Optimal playing conditions. So with a guy like him. So it does look like the Colts are going to have Michael Pittman and Shaq Leonard back. So that is an upgrade for this squad if you're looking to play the Colts side of things. Matt Ryan, through the first 2 games, has been sacked 7 times. He has thrown 4 picks. He is Pro Football Focus's 27th graded quarterback through the first 2 weeks. Steven, that being said, we know that Patrick Mahomes got away with a lot last week. I mean, Patrick Mahomes threw several turnover-worthy plays that did not turn into actual turnovers, and got the fortunate luck side of things here, was running pure. And, again, the play from the Chiefs isn't necessarily as good as what the record shows so far. I was hoping for a 7.5. It's not going to get there, so I think this is just a pass for me. I was going to play the Colts at over a touchdown. I was hoping the Chiefs were going to get a little bit more steam, but I think people are probably about right in this. Put it in that dead zone number, kind of see what we have in this Colts team now that they come back home. Of course, they started with 2 roadies on the year, so they are coming back home. And then find out if this Chiefs team is as good as maybe we think that they are.
Yeah, I think that the market is telling us that moving from 3.5 on the look ahead to 7 was an overreaction, and I agree with that. But at the same time, man, it's not just that the Colts struggled week 1. I throw out last week they didn't have their top 2 receivers, they couldn't pass the ball, whatever. But it's not just that they didn't play well week 1. It's that I think The Chiefs are better than what we expected them to be early in the season here too. And most notably for me, it's on the defensive side of the ball, where the defenses, these aren't going to blow you away, but 16th in drop back EPA and success rate. But they faced Kyler Murray and Justin Herbert, and they were 25th and 30th in those categories a year ago. So the passing defense to me looks pretty strong to start the year against a passing offense that at best has Michael Pittman, who is banged up, and a bunch of nothing. We saw that last week. I don't care if Alec Pierce is back or not. He's a completely unproven non-first round wide receiver. So I think that's very notable for the Chiefs, and to combine that with what we already know is one of the two elite offenses in the league. So I don't have a strong opinion on where the number is now. It's kind of floating in that 5.5 area. Full disclosure, I did tease the Chiefs down to basically a pick 'em earlier in the week. The market disagreed with me on that. They've moved this down from 7 to the dead zone, but I'm not sure that just saying the Chiefs had a bad week and they'll come back stronger is giving enough credit to the other side here as well. And I think the Chiefs are one of the two best teams in the NFL. And the other thing too is, Pittman looks like he's going to be back, but he's still limited. Yannick Ngakoue, one of their top pass rushers, went from limited to a DNP midweek. That's never a good sign. So I think you'll get the Colts' best effort. I'm just not as convinced as our lead writer, Eli Hershkovich, who is all in on the Colts this week. He thinks he sprinkled some money line on the Colts. So if you want to listen to that, you can go back to the Beat to the Closing Line podcast. But I was only comfortable doing a teaser here on the Chiefs to just win this game.
The only thing I'll point out about this game, and if this thing, again, key-ish number of 51 from a total standpoint, it's sitting at 50.5 right now. If this were to get to 51 or higher, I would come in on the under and just kind of play with what we know so far, which is the Colts have looked really bad on offense. It is no guarantee that Pittman is going to be 100% in this game at all. Matt Ryan might be washed. And third, we know for sure how teams have chosen to play the Chiefs. I can only imagine the Colts are also going to choose to play the Chiefs that way, which is sit back in that 2 deep zone, make them dink and dunk the ball down the field. And with that, you get a super high completion percentage if you're Patrick Mahomes. But the super high completion percentage, Adam, is basically an extension of the run game, which keeps the clock running. So again, if this thing gets over the 51, I think I'm going to play the under.
Well, that's the one thing I would say, and I'll add in that I also have one of my teasers tied to Kansas City to pick 'em. Remember who the defensive coordinator is for the Indianapolis Colts. It's Gus Bradley, who with the Raiders last year decided to play cover 3 twice against the Chiefs and reaped the whirlwind that came along with that. And when they talked to Gus Bradley about it this week, he basically said, we did a good job of holding them in check. You didn't hold them in check. You lost 2 games and you lost them both convincingly. So, will he continue to approach the Kansas City Chiefs the way that he has in the past? That's definitely one thing to watch. Maybe makes this game an interesting live bet.